Hello there, Master Hellish here, and welcome to an OpenTTD Spotlight video, where today we'll be looking at new things and changes in version 13. First up is a change in the game options. We now have variable interface scaling. Previously you had 1, 2 or 4 options in a drop-down box. Now we can just completely change this to whatever we like, times 3, times 1.5, and you can see you can hold control and then you can have even finer changes of the adjustments. Absolutely fantastic. This is a nice little upgrade. The world generation screen has got some new buttons. It's got the AI settings, game script settings and new GRF settings, so that you can check these settings before starting your new game. For example, I might want to go in here and just make sure that I haven't got any GRFs applied before I go into my new game. Previously, you'd have had to go back to the main menu, then into the setting, then back into world generation. It's just a little quality of life thing. There's been a small change to the way that the world is generated in relation to rivers. Here we can see that we've got some rivers, but if we zoom out and go towards where the rivers meet their main body of water, you can see that they get wider as they get closer to the main body of water. And this is all the rivers on the map. I like this change. It's a small change, but it just makes things a little bit more realistic. Next up, we have multi-track level crossings. So now if we have a train going towards a level crossing, all of the level crossings will activate that are connected to each other, stopping the vehicles at the ends of the level crossings. This means we shouldn't really get vehicles stranded between railway lines or anything like that anymore. And actually means that you can have nice, safe crossings, as long as you pop some signals on as well. Here we go, here's another example. Beautiful. Next up, we've come over to my Series 6 map to show you the next feature. We now have cargo filters for vehicle lists. For example, you've got vehicle lists up here, and we've got this new button where we can choose the cargo type that we want to look for. Of course, this is all trains. So let's say we want all trains that are carrying coal. Bam, there we go. That is every train that is carrying coal. And this works for other vehicle lists too. For example, we've got this multi-station here called West Inn. If I go to West Inn and click the railway train icon, you can see we've got a list of trains. And if I want these, you see, all different sorts of trains, but we can use the new all cargo type selection here and change it so that perhaps we only want to look at the steel trains going into that station. And we can filter them like that, and we can actually then do things with that, so we can stop them or we can send them to depot. A nice little filter added to the vehicle screen. Next up, we've got another change to the vehicles list. So here in the vehicles list we can see a representation of the vehicle. It tells us the profit and we've got the number. But if we go into the game settings, we can turn on this new option, show the cargoes the vehicle can carry in the list windows. So we can turn that on, and then if we go back to the window, you can see here that in brackets we've got the information about what that vehicle is carrying, whether it be goods, coal, passengers or mail, etc. This is not just in the vehicle list, it's in other places where there's lists of vehicles too. And I think this is a nice little feature to enable. I'll definitely be turning it on and leaving it on. Next up is the ability to clone or share orders with a vehicle that is grouped by shared orders. So if you don't know what shared orders are, you need to find that out and start using them. They're brilliant. But if I want to, say, have another vehicle for these ones that are in this station, then I can go over to the train list in that station and I can just click and clone them. But in various different situations, we sometimes view our trains grouped. So you can see we've got this group by option at this particular list of vehicles, and we can group by shared orders. And you can see that we've got 33 vehicles here in that. Now, previously, if you were to try and clone by this particular group, it wouldn't work. But now, it does. You can have another one put in there. So we've just generated one without holding control, so it's got the same orders but not shared. That's why it's popped up as a different train. And if I hold control, you can see it goes to 34 vehicles. We've got one with the shared orders there. The next improvement that's been made is within the Town Local Authority window. So if you click on a town, you get the information screen about that town. You can open the local authority, and in here they now show you all the particular options available for that town, whether you can afford them or not. So you can see here that there is an option to build a statue of the company owner in the town. It's just that we haven't got the cash. Next up, they've added a power to weight ratio in the ground vehicle details. So over here we've got two very different trains. We've got a relatively short train, I think it's 6 in length, but it's got a very low-ish powered engine. On the other side, we've got a longer train, length 10 I think, but it's a MacLeod higher powered engine. If we go into the vehicle details, we can see that the 6 length train is just over 8,000 horsepower, whereas the MacLeod train here is 10,000 horsepower. But you can see that the performance here is 11.9 horsepower per ton. This is the new information, and on the right hand side here, the MacLeod train is 10.6 horsepower per ton. So even though one has a lot more horsepower than the other one, they're both pretty similar on this performance, and this will give you information about how well this train will accelerate and move around the game. There's also been a change to a few actions where you can now do them at multiple tiles at a time. For example, in the landscaping options, for the purchase land tool, you used to be able to only purchase 1 square of land at once. However, now you can click and drag in an area and purchase that whole area. This also includes building canals, where previously you could only build a line, now you can build an area. And also building GRFs over an area will be an option available to modders as well. There's been some improvements to the user interface as well. For example, the finance window has been cleared up and separated out much better than it used to be before. They've also added the infrastructure cost when placing airports in the construction screen. If you're playing a game with infrastructure maintenance disabled, then your stations no longer have property maintenance. In the past, you'd have got warnings about vehicles when their age limit has been reached, even if they were stopped. Now that no longer happens. They've added a font console command. So if we open the console here, and the default button is the button next to the number 1 on your keyboard, we just type in the word font. You can see here it lists out the various different fonts that we've got set up in the game. Note, my fonts are not default, I have changed them. And if we type font help, it tells us how to use this command. So we can just type font to print out the current configuration, and we can also change the current configuration as well. Remember, you can still change this configuration within your config file like this. When doing timetables, you can now control click to change times. So let's say I wanted to change the time on all of these stops in here. I could control click the change time button and set it to what I like. Then you can see that all of these are set to 45 days. I can also control click to clear the time and to change the speed limits once I've got that option. If you're playing with the game settings that allows you to fund new industries and primary industries and prospect them, sometimes it would just work, but other times it would fail and wouldn't tell you. Now there is an error message that tells you when you fail to prospect for any reason. Finally, and probably most importantly, they've added a new keybind for honking a vehicle's horn. So if we get this steam engine and if we press H by default, nothing happens. But if we follow the steam engine, we can blow its whistle to our heart's content. And then if we go to the other vehicle, and I'm sure it happens to many vehicles, there we go. I'm sure this is going to be great fun for a lot of people. So that is my top picks of the changes in version 13. There's been many bug fixes and tweaks and changes, so do check out the full list over on the OpenTTD website. Which change in this version is your favourite? Let me know down in the comments, and I will see you soon. Thank you very much for watching. Take care, and for now, goodbye.